Okay, so I think we'll start. Anybody who wants to join in afterwards can join as we go along. So thank you very much for everyone who's joined the call to hear our webinar today. My name is Shona Rochefort, and I work for CRM Dynamics, and I will be doing the presentation this morning. As I say, my name is Shona Rochefort. I'm with CRM Dynamics. My details are on the screen. If you would like to contact us afterwards, you will also find details of how to contact in general on our website. You've probably already found those. We have a chat window as well that you can talk to people within the team as well. So what will we be covering today? We're looking at Word and Excel templates. So we're looking at this on a very general, pretty high level view. I'm not going to get into too much of really complicated areas because we just want people to understand the philosophy of how it works and get some idea of when you would use this. So we're looking at when you would use the templates, how to set up a Word template and generating your document with that. And then the same with Excel, analyzing the data with Excel and being able to export and analyze the data then from Dynamics. And then we will have questions and answers. If you would like to be able to do any questions as we go along, please fill them in on the windows, and we will answer them if we can as we go along. If we find that it's a question that needs to really kind of wait till the end, somebody will answer the question and say that. We have a couple of our team sitting on who can help with questions. I see that we have one on red at the moment about mail merge to labels. I wasn't going to cover that specifically on this. I understand that that's one of the functions you can use it with, but at the moment that's not planned, but we could maybe look at that even afterwards if that's a huge issue, and maybe even point you in the right direction if necessary. So once we've done that, we will have the, as I say, questions and answers, and I'm just going to leave that at the moment in terms of the question and answer session. So let's just go straight into the Dynamics area on here. So you will see on here then that I've opened Dynamics in terms of being able to see my dashboard. I've gone into Dynamics. So I'm going to start from here, just be able to show you where to go for the templates. So the first question, of course, is why would you use the templates? Now, the Word templates basically allow you to generate a standard Word document from any record, but the advantage of this is that it will automatically populate with D365 data. So at the moment, just to confirm, I'm working in Dynamics 365. The templates do work in 2016. They don't work in the same before 2016. They were introduced at that level. So if you are using one before 2016, you won't necessarily see these. But they were introduced to be able to help people to get data out of Dynamics in a way that would assist them for then sending documents or working with documentation and information outside Dynamics. So for example, with Word documents, you could use this to set up a standard quote that you then set up, a thank you letter maybe, so that you're sending something to one of your contacts in a standard way, and you want to be able to put name, address, details of whatever it is you're thanking them for. We're now moving a lot into charity work, and you might want to produce tax receipts that way. Or perhaps you want to put up a list of equipment. If you were in field services, you've got a company with a list of assets, and you want a report that shows you by company, you print a report for your company with the list of assets. So all this type of information can be produced from your template. Now, it is worth noting there are a few limitations on this. We'll sort of look at a couple as we go along, but basically you can only run data from one record. So if you're running, say, a list of equipment for a company, you're going to that company and you're running the equipment that belongs to that company. Basically, you're linking information that shows through a subgrid that shows on your system. So contacts in a company, things like that. There is a limit of 100 entries in that list, just so you appreciate that there is actually a limit to what you do. Once you've run the template, you're then presented with a Word document, and we will see this as we go through. You're presented with a Word document that you can do whatever you do with Word documents at the moment. So you can PDF it, you could just email it, you can file it somewhere. It becomes a Word document that is disconnected from 365 and now becomes something that you can work with independently. So how do we'll start with Word templates, and we'll look at how we actually define the Word document itself. So you, as a user, you can use templates for the whole company where everyone can access them. You can do personal ones as well. I'm going to concentrate on the ones that you use for the whole company, just to start with. And these would be accessible under under your option settings, and you will see an option here that says templates. Now I'm just going to click onto the tab I already have open for templates, and you'll see here that there's an option that tells me that I can look at document templates. Now you'll see right away that the system does give you some standard ones already. They come out the box with the ones that delivered by Dynamics. You'll also see that every time, first of all, that you try and access a template, you get this standard screen that comes up. It's basically just the sort of, let me give you a quick intro, one that Microsoft brings up. You can close this by just pressing your cross button. So we'll see here that you can see that there's a number modified by the system. These are the out-the-box ones, and you can see that there's a couple that I've already added in here, which show a CRMD demo. So there's a couple that are already added to help for this webinar, but you can see the standard ones, as I say, by the fact that they're edited by the system. So we're going to create a new one, and I can see that already the system hasn't brought up my options, so I'm just going to go back to here and choose templates from here. This sometimes happens where you don't see the top bar coming up as within the system, and now I have it here. Okay, so I'm going to create a new one first. We'll see how this works afterwards, in case you're wondering about the upload. And I'm going to be shown the option of an Excel or a Word template. So the first thing, because we're doing Word templates first, I'm going to click on my Word template, and you'll see that basically it immediately allows you to filter by entity. So this is basically saying which is the main record that you're going to be looking at here. Now, for the purposes of our demonstration, I'm going to go to, first of all, to contacts. And what I'm going to create is a letter that I want to send to my clients showing which cases they have open at the moment and that we're working on it. Now, inevitably, I'm making this very basic. You can make it as complicated as you like, but this will just show some basic information. So what I need to be able to do is show contact information, and then I need to be able to link that to my cases information that's showing as well. So in this case, I'm going to select the entity so that I can link to the details that are showing on my information for the contact cases. Now, that's a one-to-many relationship. So I have one contact and it can have many cases, but you can see that I could also link to things that have a many-to-one relationship or a many-to-many relationship as well. So just to make it easier to find, because I find the entity name easier to search by than the schema name, I'm going to look at this, and you'll see that I actually have 4 options for cases, because this is the cases. You can put a subgrid on your case based on a different area. And in this case, I'm going to link to case, incident, customer contacts. That's the subgrid I have on my contacts, and that's how I want to be able to link to the cases. And on this case, I'm now going to download the template. So I'm working in Chrome at the moment, and if you work in Chrome, when you download something, it puts a little option down here. If you're working in IE, it puts it in the middle of the screen. Whichever way you have, this has now put this option in my downloads folder, and what I can now do is open it either from my downloads folder, or I can actually open it straight from here. And in this case, I'm going to open it straight from here. And you can see on here that I now have a totally blank piece of paper on the computer, a completely blank Word document. Now, what the system has done here is that it's basically put this through onto my downloads document, saved it there. I could save it anywhere I wanted, and that's the kind of crucial thing to remember at this point. This is now your working document that you need to be able to put all the information on. So you need to be able to save this somewhere that you remember where it is, because this is the file that you need. First thing I'm going to do is click Enable Editing to allow me to actually start work on my template. Now you can see that it's given it a default name. You can call it whatever you like, whatever makes it easier for you. I'm going to leave it in my downloads folder at the moment, just because that's an easy place for me to put it for this training system. But obviously you might want to put it in a standard CRM folder that you may have on SharePoint, that you keep documentation in for CRM, something like that. Okay, so the first thing I need to do when I'm working with the template is be able to work with the developer tab. Now you can see along the top here that I have various the Microsoft tabs, and I actually have the developer one enabled because at this point I've been using the template before, so I have my developer tab enabled. You may also have it for other things that you've been doing, but if you don't have it, it's very easy to apply it. You basically go to File, and then you're going to go to the options down here, and you'll see that you have the ability to customize the ribbon. And on here you have various checks in terms of what shows on your ribbon bar, and you have one here that's called developer. Now when you check that, that then means that your developer bar becomes activated at this point, and you're in a position that you can do this. Now there are a couple of areas that you should just be aware of here. Microsoft has a couple of known issues on the templates. These are actually shown on the Microsoft site as well, in terms of using the templates, and they can cause Word to freeze. So there's a couple of other things that you just need to check. Now I should say at this point, in case you're trying to furiously write this down in terms of remembering what you have to check, there is a very good page on the Microsoft training guides that will allow you to see all this written down. And basically, if you just Google D365 Word templates, it comes up with a very good page on this. So don't feel you have to make too many notes on here in terms of being able to remember all this. But just to show you on here, what we need to do is basically go to File, to Options, and then to Proofing. And there are one or two things that the system gets a little confused about. One of them is the ability to capitalize the first sentence in any word in any sentence, the first word. So I'm going to go to my autocorrect here, and you have to take off the capitalized first letter of sentences. Also take off the hyphens that automatically replace hyphens with a dash. So I'm going to go on to the auto format here, and you take off this option here. The other one it doesn't like is the automatically use suggestions from the typing. So the automatically use suggestions from the speller checker option as well. So there's my hyphens there, that's undone, and the autocorrect automatically use suggestions from the speller checker here. So spelling checker here. So I have unchecked all of those options previously, again, because I have been using this before. So now we're ready to get going with the options of adding your information in. So first thing you need to do is link back into CRM Dynamics, and that you do through your Developer tab. So under the Developer tab, you have here XML Mapping Pane. So I'm going to click on that, and you can see on the left-hand side, I now have Mapping Pane options that allow me to add information from various areas. I'm going to drop down my list here, and there's one here that refers to Microsoft CRM. And if I click on that, then you will see that it now connects to my contact. Now, this looks a little confusing in that I also chose cases, but the reason the cases doesn't show is because I have to first show my contacts. And then if I go all the way down, here's my incident customer contact area. So what I've got here is a list of every field that is in my system, and I can now add any of these fields to any place in this document that I want to do. Now, I don't want to spend all the webinar doing this, so what I've done here is I have one that's partially done already. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to link this one to the XML panel, just to show you again that that goes through. And now I have my contact information here. So you can see, first of all, I've added a logo. This is a standard Word document. Yes, it has linkages here with information that I've already put in, but it's got standard Word information in the sense of pictures. So I've put a logo in, and I've put a very scrawny signature in here as well. So you could put that in when you wanted to add a picture. So if you, as I say, had company logos, or maybe you've got a picture for promoting something, or just that you want something to be in here for your customers to see, you can add that to the template, and that will then run automatically. Now in this case, what I'm doing is I'm writing my name, I'm writing an address, and I've put some standard text in it, and then I'm going to add the list of the cases. So if you if you go over here, if I click on design mode as well, just to show, you can see I've already added these two. Now I'm going to add the company name. So what I need to do here is I need to find company name on here. And here's my company. And if I place my mouse over it, you can see that it goes slightly gray. And I'm going to right mouse click on here, and I stress right mouse click, and then I'm going to hover over here, and you can see it gives me an option. Now, the other thing to bear in mind on here, this is the other limitation from the Microsoft side, is that despite the fact that it gives you a whole bunch of options, the only ones that you can pick here are plain text and picture. And given that you're picking out of here, the only option you have, because they're field names, is to add this as plain text. So I'm going to hover over here and then click on plain text, and you can now see that my field has entered into the system on my document. Now you can see that it's a field that's slightly different from a standard piece of text. It's got 3 little dots here, it's got a box around it, and my cursor is flashing at the end. If I click my cursor at the end here, if I just pressed enter to go to a new line, that doesn't work because I'm in the field. So if I want to move off and do something, I have to move my cursor one forward off the field, and then I can enter it as if it was off the field. That's kind of a little bit important to remember, just because you won't be able to manipulate inside the field. You need to move off it first. And I just did that by moving my cursor one over to the right. So I have my company in. Now I'm going to enter my address. Now remember that Microsoft has this great way of doing the composite address, so you don't need to add on all the separate lines. That will also get rid of all the spaces for you because it's a composite one. So I'm going to right mouse click on this. I'm going to insert by hovering over here, put in my plain text, and now I have my address one composite. And then the last one I'm going to do here is my title. Oh, that's job title here, of course. So I now have the information that I want, and just because I regularly save, I'm going to save this now. Now what I want to do is be able to add the cases that this person has on the system. So here is my table that I've done. I need to do this as a table. If I'm doing basically a repeating line, because I'm adding multiple entries, I need to enter it as a table. I've put some very basic information in here. This could be something that you wanted more. So in this case, I'm going to get this out of the cases for entity. So I'm going to go to the area on this list that has my cases entity. So what I want here is I want the case ID, which is going to be my ticket number. So I'm going to do the same thing, right mouse click, hover over, plain text. Then I have my case name. And I have to be honest, I have to remember what the ticket details are here. I think this was subject ID name, and put that in as plain text. Then I have my description on here, and I'm going to add that in. And basically, I'm now adding all the fields that I need to show for this list of records that I'm doing. So I've got my created on, and then I've got my resolution, and that is actually under an ADX one, and that's resolution date. So I now have the details that I want. Now I want to tell the system that it has to pick everything that relates to this contact and enter it in. So the first thing I do is highlight the text row on my table. So the one that's showing the details of the fields. Then I'm going to go to the actual physical grouping name for that entity. So if I was to close this up, for example, you can see here, it's my incident contact one here. Now, what I need to do now, let's just make this a little bit bigger so that I can see where my details are. So now I highlight the whole of the entity name, and I click my right mouse click here, insert control, content control, and now I have the option to show that this is repeating. Sorry, I think I just came off that field by accident. Okay, so now I need to go over here and click the repeating on here, and you'll see that it does the same thing. It puts around a bit of formatting. I have my text here. This is now showing a repeating ability on here. So now I'm going to save this, and this now is basically my template that has been created and can be saved. So I've now created my information here. The system here will enable me to say I've got a Word document. I'm now in a position where I want to be able to add this into Dynamics 365. So I remember where this is stored. I know that I stored it on a particular place. I'm going to close down this, and I'm now going to go back to my templates area in Dynamics. So here we see I've got my Dynamics area templates, and I've got the option to upload a template. So I'm going to upload this template, and you'll see that first of all I get an area here where I can drag or I can add a file manually. Now in this case, just for demonstration purposes, I'm just going to go to my other screen that you don't actually see, and here's the file that I'm just dragging over. So this is the file that I've just been working on. I've just created it, I've dragged it into this area, and I'm going to click upload on here. Now the one I did this morning was a little bit quick and rough, so I actually have another one that's already in the system, and that's the one I'm going to use for the demo on here. I basically tried to do the same on each, but just to make sure that I did exactly the same, the fields that completed, I'm going to use the one that I finished with. But here you can see that this is the template that's actually opened. You can see that it's set it as activated immediately. Activated means it will be seen by people who want to use it, and they can use it. It has a name. This is what the user will see as the name. So you might want to make it something meaningful if it's something that they need to understand. This is not really very meaningful to show that it's to do with cases. A description could just help in terms of understanding, if you look at these, what it's about. And then it just shows you the generic information, like when it was loaded, that kind of thing, who loaded it. Now, the one thing you should note is it automatically has assigned it to the correct entity, in this case, contact, because it knew that you started it with the correct entity, and you were able to use that. So now I'm going to go to my contact screen. So here's my contacts. I've got lots of contacts, and I've got one here called Fred Blogs, and he works for Fred's Auto Company. So I'm going to go onto Fred's site, onto his record, and you'll see that he's set up with various details. He's got an address, he's got information. You'll also see that he's got a couple of cases here. If we go onto the cases entity, you can see that he's listed here in terms of entities. Let's just go by customer here. You'll see that he's got 2 cases that are logged for him as well. So I now want to send a letter to Fred to tell him these are the cases that he's got open. Now, of course, I could send a letter by email, or I could do send it in the post, or I can fax it to him, whatever reason I want. But basically, to start with, what I want is to have my Word document there that I can do something with. So I'm going to go to my top of my screen here. You'll see all the options that you have. Now, of course, bear in mind, I have an administrative access on here. You may not, so you may not see quite so many of these options. But because I saved this under a document template area, everyone should be able to see this. Here you see there's an option here for Word templates. So I'm going to click on this little arrow, and sometimes this can be a little fiddly. Sometimes this arrow doesn't quite show, or you see something and you just slip off. So just be patient and click this little arrow, and you'll see here you've got a couple of options. Create Word template. I'll just come back to that just in a moment. And then you can see there's 2 Word templates here that are available to people to use. One of them is for the one that we've just loaded, and one of them is the one that I did before. So I'm going to bring that one up, and you can see now that it tells me it's exporting to Word and it's generating the template. Here it's again, as I say, Chrome puts it in the corner. It's loaded it into my downloads folder. If I click on here, this is now opening my file. Now, the important thing to understand here, I've got this window open just because it's open on Word, is that this is now a Word document. It's not a template. It's not a document you can do formatting on in the sense of that XML stuff and everything. This is just a standard Word document. So I'm going to click my Enable Editing button, and I now have the ability to do what I like with this. It's brought in the name of the person, their company, their address. It's got details here of what I said, these pictures that I put in, and here under the table of cases, this is where it's brought in both of those cases. So it's repeated the lines as it goes through. Now, once I've got this document, I can now do what I like with it. I can print it, I can email it, I can file it, I can turn it into a PDF. This is a standard Word document. Now, that's basically the Word template. The one thing I was going to show you on here, if you click here and create a Word template from here, you follow the same process for creating the Word template, but your Word template will be personal to you. It will only be accessible to you when it's available. So really, this is the kind of thing that would be useful for an administrator to do, for everyone to see in the company as to what they want to be able to create. So if they need to be able to create a Word template, they can come down here and the system administrator can basically create that and allow anyone to be able to use that. Now, that's your Word templates. And just to note, I will be covering the security aspect of this just at the end in terms of setting up security on this. So if you have a question on that, oh, I see somebody has actually just asked a question on security. So let me come to that. I will answer that at the end because it applies to both Word and Excel templates. Okay, so basically that is the process here for your templates here in terms of Word templates. I'm now going to look at Excel templates. So let's go back to templates and document templates. And in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at templates for opportunities. So I'm going to go to sales and I'm just going to open an opportunities window. And I'm going to look here at a list of opportunities, and I want to do something that allows me to see potential customers and their revenue for open opportunities. Okay, so that's the information that I'm looking for in this respect. So I'm going to go back to my document templates, and this time I'm going to press New. And I'm going to click on Excel templates because in this situation, I want to be able to create an Excel template. So filter by entity. This time I'm looking at opportunities. And in this situation, I'm looking at one set of data in terms of the opportunity side, but what I'm looking at is a view. Now, you know probably from what you're doing already that you set up views based on what is useful for the information that you want to see. So what the system's doing here is basically saying, okay, I'm going to give you a starting point to go from. You can start from a particular view that you may have, but I'm also going to help you because I know that if you've created a view, you may not want all the columns on that view. You may just need a couple of columns. And in this situation, we're looking at potential customer and estimated revenue. So we only need those two columns. So you could create a view that had just those two columns, and you could use that view, nothing to stop you doing that. But if you want to use an existing one, you basically can just edit the columns, and this is just editing the columns for the template. It's not editing the columns for the view itself. So I'm going to get rid of the topic. I don't need that. I'm going to get rid of my estimated close date. I don't need that. I don't need my account. I don't need my email, and I don't need my rating and probability. I just need basically two columns, the revenue and the account. So then I'm going to press OK, and my system here is saying, fine, let's download a file. So once again, I've got a file opened. It's gone into my downloads folder. And now when I open this is slightly different because this is now giving me some data. It's giving me the standard set of data that I would see for an export. Rows A, B, C, which are hidden, and then D and E. So first thing, of course, enable editing. Now, this is where it starts getting interesting in terms of what you want to do on Excel. Because what you're going to do with this document is you are going to create an Excel file that you want to use in the future. So let's say, for example, you have to, every month, you have to produce a report that shows a graph with all the revenue and company figures on. You want that to be consistent for month to month. So you would, to be able to get one that you can actually see the figures on and copy and paste or put into a document, you want to have that so that it's consistent with things like how you do the heading and your labels and the size of the graph and all that kind of stuff. You don't want to be going back and forth every month, exporting it from Excel, setting up the file, putting in something that shows what it looks like, etc., etc., etc. You want to be able to have a consistent one. And this is what the Excel document does as an Excel template. So your first step is that you have to design the Excel file to show what you want it to show. Now, this can really be as easy or complicated as you want. I'm going to make it very basic for purposes of this demo, and I'm just going to put in a very, very basic pivot chart and information. So I'm going to, oh, sorry, I need to choose this first, and then I'm going to put my pivot chart. I'm going to just put it on the same page and then press OK, and then move my pivot chart here, and then I'm going to show my account information and my estimated revenue. Now, I freely acknowledge this is a very, very basic chart. You would perhaps want to do something a lot more complicated, but basically, just for demo purposes, this is what I'm showing. So I have here my original data, and then I have my information here for the pivot table. Now I'm in a position where I can do anything I want to this pivot table. So in this case, I want to be able to add axis title, for example, and I want to say that this is company information, and this is estimated revenue, and then I want to have my title saying something a little bit more, etc., etc., etc. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time going through the formatting of this. Again, I have one that's already prepared that we'll look at instead. So hopefully, though, you get the understanding that you now design this Excel file as you want it to see. This is no longer a CRM issue in the sense of how do I want CRM to look. This is now how do I want my Excel file to look. So once you've finished designing your Excel file, then you can save the information. And I'm now going to close my Excel file, and I'm back onto my templates folder in Dynamics. So same process. I'm going to upload my details here. And again, I will just drag and drop from my other location, and then I'm going to click upload. Now, same thing. I've got a name. Now, this has taken the default name from the view that I use, so I may want to change that. Description, the fact it's Excel, it's put it into the entity code here. Everything is as I would expect. So now what I'm going to do is go to my opportunities. Now, just because I had this open and because I want to refresh the screen, I'm just going to press F5 just to refresh this to make that template show. Now, if you remember, I used my open opportunities, and if I look at my open opportunities here, you'll see that I have 11 entries. If I go to open opportunities here, oh, I also have 11 entries. Maybe that's the same on here. Let's go, for example, to closed opportunities. You'll see that I only have 5. So what this indicates, and let's just go back to open opportunities at the moment, is that my data has changed, basically. So the information that I've run on here is physically changed. And so every month, I'm going to get a different set of data here. So what the Excel template allows you to do is now just run the Excel template and show that updated data. So let's look at that. So under Excel templates, I'm going to drop my arrow again. And you can see that I've, again, got details on the one that was loaded, the one I loaded yesterday, and a standard one that's come from Microsoft. So if I click on this arrow, you'll notice that what Microsoft also does is allow you the ability to open this in Excel online and also to open it as an Excel file. So you can choose which one you want to do on this. I'm going to open this as opportunities in Excel. So I'm going to open my data here, and I'm going to open this file. And this one, hopefully you can see it's pretty much the same one, but it's ones that I just have formatted slightly better. So here's my data, and you can see from here, let's look at this. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 records here. Now this is what was created on when I did the original template. But you can see on here that I have updated information that has 11 entries. So by enable editing and then going to my pivot tool ability here under Analyze, I can now refresh this, and basically this information, oh, maybe this didn't refresh because there's more than one on Fred's Auto. Let me close this one, and what we will do is run this on closed opportunities, and then you'll see it a little clearer. So I'm going to run this again. My opportunities final, download opportunities, open this again. This time my data is much less. I'm going to go to my Analyze, refresh all. And now you can see that by refreshing the data, it's actually refreshed my chart. So that means that I've got a consistent layout from every time that I run it. I can run it against any view that's on here in opportunities, and it will take the same information, but it will use the records that are in that particular view. So you may have views by departments, you may have views by salesmen, you may have views by teams, whatever. You can choose whichever of the views you want to show on here, and you can just use that template and run that template against that view. Okay, so hopefully that then shows that to you that the template can be designed to pretty much match whatever you want and doing this, making sure that you've got the information in terms of being able to update it. Okay, so I just want to show you one thing. I see there are some questions, but I'll just show you one thing first, and that's for the security. So what I'm going to do on here is I'm going to go into settings and security and security roles. I'm just going to open any security role for the purposes of showing you where this is. The actual security role itself is irrelevant. Under business management, you will see two options. One is document template, and one down here is personal document template. So the document template is how you set it to give people access to the templates that we've been working with. So you can see, for example, that this individual has the ability to read any of those templates. So anyone that had a security role in this company of salesperson would be able to open and run any of the document templates that were set up. The personal document templates means that they can create their own document template. So you can see in this situation, this person can do anything they want to a document template that they create, and the ability to create it is there as well. So they can create any and do anything to their own personal templates. Now, I believe these ones come as default. So generally speaking, you wouldn't need to actually set this because it comes as a default on the role. But obviously, when you're using templates, it is as well to actually physically check and make sure that this has been set so that you get everybody able to do this.